the pod. I'm Tom Oz Music Month Kennedy, joined by Matt Taylor's version Carvalho, Dan Jazzman Lozier, and Chris Fanmail Palumbo. We are the Groovy Guys, and this is Crate Expectations, the podcast for record collectors and music enthusiasts. Gents, I'd like to start today's podcast by reading you all a poem by the great Anthony Kiedis. What I got, you got to give it to your mama. What I got, you got to give it to your papa. What I got, you got to give it to your daughter. You do a little dance, and then you drink a little water. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Now, Anthony Kiedis has said this song off Blood Sugar Sex Magik is about altruism and the value of selflessness. I couldn't think of a better poem to kick off this episode where we're talking about the greatest gift of all, the gift of vinyl. Before we get underway, it's been a while since we've had a chat. How have we been?
Wait, Tom, before we get into any of this, can we request maybe a version of that album in spoken word where you read all the lyrics to every song? Because that was amazing.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Like a William Shatner?
That was beautiful.
Look,
Blood Sugar Sex Magik by Tom Kennedy, spoken word.
Look,
Yeah.
If we get to 1,000 episodes of this podcast, I will do that.
1,001. It's just that. It's just you doing the spoken
That's
word.
going to be years before we get there.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a goal to work toward and a reason to get there.
The poor listeners.
Episode a month, 12 months in a year. See at 120, boys.
So, look, we're going to talk about the gift of vinyl, which I genuinely think, the gift of music, the gift of vinyl, one of the great gifts you can give someone.
One of the best.
But before we get into that, it's been ages since we've had a chat, and that we've all had some sort of gift in that period of time, funnily enough. Dan, might start with you. Last episode I referred to you as Papillon. The listeners out there may not have caught it, and they almost certainly wouldn't have known why I referred to you as that. But in the last little while, you've had the gift of a new guitar. Can you just tell us a bit about this, because it's pretty awesome?
Yeah, well, this guitar is dubbed the Papillon guitar, or how I like to pronounce it, the Papillon guitar. For some of the listeners, they may have caught on that I may have talked about my dad a lot in this podcast. My dad passed away about a year ago, and my cousin, who's a guitar maker, shout out to Matt Moranger Instruments. He's built me a couple of great guitars in the past, and when my dad passed away, he had told me that he wanted to build a guitar that my dad had wanted to commission from him. And when he told me about this, I was like, man, 100% make that guitar. I want to see this come to fruition. And basically built exactly the exact guitar that my dad wanted to his spec, which is basically, it's like a combination of a Gibson L00 and a Martin 00 guitar, like early 1900s spec. Did it in black walnut back and sides and neck, which is my dad's favorite wood. Like AAA grade spruce top. Has like a Gibson, a Gibson ebony fretboard, which is like it's kind of like a toss away from them because I had a couple of like small defects, which is whatever. And he also hand carved a pyramid bridge, which is like to spec of the early 1900s Martins. And this thing just plays unbelievable. It's my dad dubbed it when my cousin tells a story that when my dad went to go visit him, he wanted une petite guitare de la blues, which translates to a small guitar to play the blues. So it's like, just picture like the guitar Robert Johnson played, and that's basically what he built. Beautiful tobacco sunburst. It's one of my prized possessions.
It's gorgeous.
If it wasn't,
There's no other word.
Beautiful.
It's we'll have to put a picture on the Instagram because it's
absolutely
it's beautiful.
Matt he's been making guitars now on Manitoulin Island for think at least over 10 years now, and he's really starting to hone in his craft. Like he's an artist and a craftsman, and I think on this particular one, like I have two more of his guitars. The first one is very sort of design focused. It has like a live edge pick guard on it, and it has like a weird sound hole position. He made me like an all mahogany OM style guitar, which is a banger, but it has a couple artsy twists to it. But this is like a 2-spec early century guitar, and like this was like I've played a lot of his different instruments that he's built in the past. I visit him quite often, and this one, it's like, man, you can really start to see the craftsmanship come through in his guitars. So
if it wasn't an instrument to be played, you would actually just hang it up on your wall because it is a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know what? And like to the way Matt builds guitars, like he doesn't really believe in creating pieces of art. Like he wants his instruments to be functional, and he's actually really selective about how many guitars he builds. And he's almost at the point now that his demand is so high that he can select his customers, right?
Awesome.
Like if he
That's so
feels
cool.
like the customer is going to buy a guitar and not play it, he's not interested in really making it. He wants to make guitars for players, and he wants people to actually enjoy these and to use them.
And Dan,
And the-
just for the
That's so
non-French
cool.
speakers, tell us about Papillon.
A papillon means butterfly. It's a nickname my brothers gave my dad. Randomly, my dad was a softie. He was basically a butterfly, and I think he hated it at first, but he totally embraced it later on in his life, and it was his nickname moving forward.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's a great
Love
story.
it. Love it.
And Matt, I think you're probably the most appropriate person to take us down this next little track. We've had a gift of new music this week.
Yes.
And I alluded to it in your nickname with these Taylor's version releases. I know you've probably listened to them or listened to some of it.
Yeah.
Give us a bit of a précis, like what's going. This is a really interesting space for the music industry to be in. What Taylor Swift has been doing recently.
So a little bit of background on it. So Taylor Swift, when she switched record labels, she wanted to own her masters from her previous record label. I guess there was a bit of a dispute because the record label was being sold off to Justin Bieber's manager, and essentially it got really sticky, really messy. There's a lot of info out there on the situation that happened. Essentially, the long and the short of it, he didn't want to sell her masters. The old head of the record label said, "Oh, we gave her all these chances to buy back the records, the masters." And then they started using her versions of her song in a documentary, which she didn't authorize. Anyways, there's a little bit more to it than that, but it's kind of the brief overview of it. One side says, "Oh, we've tried to be, as cooperative as possible. She doesn't want to cooperate with us." And then she's like, "Nope, it's the exact opposite of what they're saying." She's posted about it in her stories. Anyways, what she decided to do was, I actually think it's really cool. She decided to go back and re-record all of her old albums. So that way she owns the masters of these, and this is what gets authorized for anything she puts out now going forward, from what I understand.
It's pretty, yeah. And she released Red, Taylor's version of Red this week, right?
Yes, that's my favorite albums of hers up until the two latest ones came out. I thought with that record, she really, really honed in a nice sound. It was a good mix between rock and country meets pop. I like, even from the opening track, State of Grace, when that when you hear a little bit of that feedback or the guitar comes in. Dan, I know you're not the biggest fan, but it kind of reminds me of The Edge a little bit.
That was an
I don't know if that's a
understatement.
compliment.
Anyways, it gets me. You kind of get drawn in right from the beginning with State of Grace, and it just kind of continues. But I think that whole album, the best song off of it, All Too Well, that is the record to me.
That
Can't
song's
beat it.
amazing.
Yeah, and she released a 10-minute version of it on this new one, which I haven't heard yet. I haven't seen the short film. It's been a busy week. I'm carving out time to do that tomorrow. So, but from what I have heard of it, I've heard about half of it so far. Half of the album. It's really cool because, you do notice the little subtle hints from the old one to the new one. Different, I guess little quirks or how she hits a note from one to the other. I think it's on Red. There's one part in the song when she's coming back into the last chorus where she really, really gives it. And each time I hear it, even on the old one and the new one, I still get the chills when I hear it. So I'm like, ooh, that didn't change. That's great. My only knock that I've found so far, which I don't think Trouble has aged too well, because it's got a little bit of that dubstep dancey feel, and it almost feels like they were trying to take a little bit of it away, which is fine. I have no issue with that. I just, as a song, I just don't think it aged too well. You could tell it was kind of trendy, and that's what they were doing when that album was released.
Makes sense.
Other than that, though, I love everything I've heard from it so far.
So I was going to say, I don't know the Red album very well at all. Lee does. And she put on the new version because I had no idea any of this was going on. And when she told me the story, I was like, I'm all in. Anything where there's controversy in music, love it. Love the whole idea of it. But I didn't notice any, I know the songs, but I didn't notice anything different about it. And that's what I was curious about, Matt, is what stood out or what did it age well? And I noticed right away, I was like, I enjoyed listening to it. And I was like, I didn't feel like I was listening to an older Taylor Swift album.
So I would say you're on the money there. I think it aged really well.
Yeah.
I don't really notice too many difference. Obviously, the mix has changed a little bit, and you can hear other elements that might have been kind of more in the background. I feel like on a couple of songs, they might have actually added a couple of things. I had to kind of go back and give it more of a critical listen to give you the brass truth on that. But I do think it aged well. And I'm only saying that about Trouble just because that's a song that I did notice quite a bit of difference. I was never the biggest fan of that that record anyway. So I think maybe that's why I might have been a little bit more critical and noticed a couple differences.
Cool.
Her last two albums, she produced those albums with Aaron Dessner, right? Is she still working with that crew?
Dude, this
Jack
is what
Antonoff, Aaron Dessner, those guys, yeah.
This is what I love is she's essentially brought that whole crew to do the re-recorded versions because they're all on both credits they're on both of the credits for those albums.
Yeah, so that's the interesting point, Chris, where you're asking how much has it changed. I think some of it will be subtle because they haven't gone back to the masters and pulled stuff in or out. They've actually re-recorded everything, right? And, it was released however many years ago, so she will have changed as a singer, as a musician, as a guitar player. She was changed as a songwriter, matured as a person in that period of time. So some of the changes in the re-recording will be so subtle, but it's just her way of taking ownership of the music. And some of the tracks that didn't make the original cut have been re-recorded and included, tracks that she wanted on there that the record label cut, or the 10-minute version of a track that the record label cut down to be single length. She's just, it's not a new concept, right? Like a director's cut of a film or, Paul McCartney's cut of Let It Be. It's not a new concept, but I think that will have reverberations, pardon the pun, in the record industry because of the way she's approaching ownership of her IP and of her music rights.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, what's cool about this too is, it feels like it's more of a live performance. I feel like there's a little more of a natural live element to the re-recorded version, which is really cool. And I do got to give her kudos. If you care about, let's be honest, she's done very well. This isn't all about the money. People will say it is, but I think she cares about owning her own IP to go back and re-record all this material, plus include stuff that didn't make the first cut and add more to it. Like, to me, you're giving a lot of value to your fans as well as getting something back for yourself.
Yeah, the cynic will say this is a cash grab. And, you know, there may well be an element to that. But as you say, it's also about having a say over how your music is used, which I think is a vexed issue for a lot of artists, right? Because at a certain point in their career, they're willing to give away more rights than potentially they want to get their, you know, to get a record deal, to jumpstart their career. So now she's in a position where she can take some of that power back.
Oh,
absolutely.
Like, again, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, and I knew about it instantly.
I reckon.
And it.
I'll be honest, guys. The short films, a little cheesy.
Really?
Yeah.
A little cheddar. Yeah.
I reckon.
Hey, but you watch them. That's the thing.
Yeah, you watch
I
them.
watch
listen.
them because I appreciate Taylor Swift as an artist, but Taylor
That's
Swift
okay.
the filmmaker.
Hey, but that, you know what?
Boy.
Hey, there's always a little bit of cheese in everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, moving on to something, Chris, I feel like, I'm sorry, but I feel like there's some sort of controversy at the center of your world.
Oh, another controversy for an episode with Chris Palumbo?
So,
I haven't done anything.
When does that happen?
So, Chris, I've just been digging through the Groovy Guys inbox, createexpectationspod@gmail.com, if you want to send us some fan mail. We got our first bit of genuine fan mail since the last episode. And I'm going to read it out, and we're going to unpack it. So the subject is Really Chris. And it's from one John Palumbo.
Oh, number one fan.
Number one fan of the podcast.
Shout out to John
Shout out to
Palumbo.
John, the honorary fifth Groovy Guy.
So, really, Chris, of all the artists and bands I listen to, you put Meatloaf versus Bowie. Come on. I saw Pink Floyd live at 16. I introduced you to The Who, Nazareth, and on and on and on. Man.
Well, Nazareth,
Man, so disappointed. P.S. Bat Out of Hell was an amazing album. Regards, John Palumbo.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
That's the best part. Regards.
He doubles down.
No, the best part is like, really, you picked Meatloaf? By the way, Bat Out of Hell is an amazing album.
I told you.
So, last episode, how did we get onto this? Last episode, we were talking about taste in music coming from our parents, and Chris asked who has better taste in music, mum or dad, and then we threw that back onto Chris, and Chris threw John under the bus.
But then my dad went. So I got an angry phone call before this got sent. So my dad was working. Some issue happened at work, and he had to just stand or not stand, but he had to wait for maintenance crews to fix some things. So we had some time, and he went back and listened to all the episodes again. Hence why he's the number one fan. Yeah, number one fan. Yeah, he's pumping
amazing.
those Spotify numbers up. But he called me. He's like, "You make fun of me in every episode. You chirp me in every episode." And I was like,
Hey.
"Yeah, there's something little there."
Yeah, but Chris, as an honorary Groovy Guy, we make fun of each other.
True.
Yeah, so you should feel privileged.
So you should feel privileged, John, that we do, especially Chris. Who's
Not
your
everyone
son,
gets the Groovy Guys treatment.
jabs you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But that's what you need. That's what you get for being the honorary Groovy Guy.
But Chris,
Groovy guy, right?
I've got to side with John here. Like, he sent us a couple of messages about that. The first band he ever saw live was Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I know.
crazy.
Amazing.
And
At 16.
Yeah, he's seen Queen. He's seen
come
the
on.
Who. Like, you should if we ever get him on the episode just talking about concerts, he has some great concerts that he went to. Supposedly back in the day, the CNE used to put on free shows, and they had headliners
Amazing.
show up. And he was talking about one at Maple Leaf Gardens, and I think that was the Who concert, and
Nice.
it just sounds next level.
You know what's funny? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, Chris. My dad talks about seeing the Who at Maple Leaf Gardens. I wonder if they were at the same show.
I guarantee you they were.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I heard that show was ridiculous. I know it's it's talked about in a documentary somewhere because I remember seeing it flash up on a screen. I don't know who documentary I watched, and they talk about like the Maple Leaf Garden show.
Cool.
So it's quite iconic, yeah.
So anyway, I just want to thank John for the gift of our first fan mail, and we're with you, John. He's throwing you under the bus.
I am, and I'll probably do it this episode too. But I would just like to say that I'm usually the one who checks the fan mail, so I love how he called me and then tried to make sure that all of you know that he was mad at me as well.
And then you got the email.
But I got the email. But I would like to point out now he's figured it out. So he's been using Tom's usually the Instagram guy.
He's
so
been
talking to
messaging
Tom.
me on Instagram.
Instagram,
Yeah,
right?
John,
So
John, Chris is the one who popped the email in our group chat, and we all had a good laugh. And
yeah,
we all, to be fair, we all sided with Bev in that conversation because, when we think Meatloaf versus
I did it on
Bowie,
purpose.
I mean, we're gonna pick
Yeah.
Bowie.
Everyone's gonna
But,
pick. But he
now
even said that.
Now that we hear the breadth of the bands you've seen live and what you listen to,
Changes
I think
the
it's still
story.
toss up, but
Real character assassination.
at least it's not just
Yeah.
Meatloaf.
Yeah, it's no. Oh no, yeah, it's Nazareth too.
Nazareth,
Yeah.
though, not John. You should have put that in the list.
Yeah.
Should have put that in the list.
The Nazareth has one good album. Razzmatazz, come on.
Moving on.
So good.
So it's probably apt that we're talking about gifts this record because since we last recorded, I had my birthday. And you're a record collector. I think it gives everyone a really easy option for presents.
Yeah.
But not only did I get a gift voucher to my favorite record store from my sisters, I also got this amazing mug from my sisters. Groovy Guy Tom to the listeners. It's
That's amazing.
a white mug with a record on one side and Groovy Guy Tom on the other side. This is now officially our first piece of merchandise. And
Sweet.
we should all get these.
Absolutely.
You can
for
change
everyone,
it
keep
from
your-
Groovy Guy Tom if you wish, but you could also just get a Groovy Guy Tom one.
I want a Groovy Guy Dan for sure.
And then my dad got me these. He's had these for a while. They're the game Dominoes.
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of the game Dominoes?
Yes,
Come
I've
on.
heard of Domino's Don.
So anyway, these are just record themed dominoes. So you match them up with their colors.
Oh, that's
I love
cool.
it.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Pastime. And then my lovely wife is enabling me by buying me
Oh boy.
memorabilia.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
So this is that AC/DC memorabilia I talked about, released by, so it's in a road case, released by the Australian Mint. And if you can see in there, let's do Dirty Deeds. So it is a series of coins released by the Australian Mint commemorating
Oh wow.
albums by AC/DC. So it's got the Dirty Deeds, the tattoo
so
that Bon
cool.
has. And so,
That's so cool.
It's High Voltage, TNT, Back in Black, Let There Be Rock, Ball Breaker, and just a special AC/DC commemorative coin.
Do you
That's
think
sweet.
the Australian Mint is a Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
Oh,
Well,
Who?
given that
The Australian Mint. Do you think who would they pick?
given that Bon is an Australian and Brian is not, I think they'd pick Bon.
oh.
Wait,
Wait, what?
Brian Johnson was not Australian.
What? He's from
he
the UK.
American?
Is he?
Okay, well I didn't know that.
Bon is
Wow,
Bon
man.
is Scottish born, but his family moved to Australia when he was young.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Learning something new.
There you go.
I learned something new. Hey, did you end up buying that record?
Yeah, we talked about this last episode, right? So
Let There Be Rocker or something like that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
You bit the bullet, eh?
I bit the bullet. The signs were. It was the last Bon Scott record I needed. It was in the guy selling it was in the same suburb as me.
Ah,
I had
it's Kismet.
convinced him that the price he was asking was unreasonable, and I had got him to a point where I was comfortable with the price, and I pulled the trigger, and now I have all Bon Scott albums in my collection, and I think all but one of them are Albert label pressings. So I haven't finished my quest yet. I still need an Albert label pressing of Highway to Hell. But other than that,
Nice.
every Bon Scott album in my collection is an Albert label pressing.
Awesome.
Well, hey, you got the gift of vinyl merchandise for your birthday. Happy birthday, Tom. And you gifted
sir.
yourself.
The best gift of all.
The best gift of all, self-love.
Self-love.
Oh dear.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
I gotta ask, how did the negotiations go with him?
So I take a really pragmatic approach. If a record is priced reasonably, I will pay for it. Yep, that's the price.
I
If I'm
agree.
willing to pay,
I agree.
I'll pay. If it's overpriced, I ask for clarification on exactly which pressing it is. I do my research and then I say, hey, based on, so he had it priced at, he had priced it based on what people were trying to sell it for on Discogs. As opposed to what it has sold for. So I just went to him and said, based on the way you've described its condition, based on the pressing, I think it's probably worth more like this. What you're asking for is not its sold price, it's for sale price. And he said, yeah, that's fair enough. And then I went and checked the condition, and the condition was he'd graded it quite conservatively. He was calling it VG. It was more like VG plus, VG plus. So
nice.
even better. And yeah,
Great.
done deal.
Sweet. Good for you, man. Good for you. Give yourself, you deserve that, you know?
Thank you. I do.
What else are you going to spend your money on? Booze?
Foster's?
That's what Australians spend their money on, right?
Yeah, that's the only beer I hear they drink.
Vegemite and kangaroo
Vegemite
feet.
Foster's?
Vegemite, yeah.
Oh, I still gotta try that.
No, it's VB, right?
Yeah, there you
VB.
go.
Oh, yeah.
Victoria's best.
You can. I'm going to
VB.
get a bunch for the chat show coming up.
Nice.
Just going to get hammered on VB.
There you go.
All right. I feel like that was a longer than usual intro.
It
So
always is.
maybe we should get into it, hey? Let's talk about
Oh,
final
let's go.
gifts. Matt, I see you with your hot little hands waiting to talk to us about this album that I listened to earlier this week to remind myself of how damn good it is.
Oh,
What have you got
so
for
good.
us?
Big
All right,
album.
so I'm going with. I got this as a gift last year for my birthday. Foo Fighters, "Wasting Light," one of my favorite Foo records. It's so good. Love that they teamed up with Butch Vig for this one. Love that they did it all analog. Have you guys bought a copy
know
of this
that.
record?
I don't have a copy.
Okay, so what was cool with this was when they released it, they actually cut a piece of the master tape and included it in each copy of the
What?
album. Yeah, it's
Oh,
really
wow.
cool.
That's so cool.
That's
Yeah.
sweet.
So the masters don't exist anymore.
I guess not, unless they made a
Nice.
copy of it, or I don't know.
Oh, that's...
But
Wow.
it was really cool. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary that they did.
Yeah. Back and forth.
It's back and forth. If you haven't checked it out, you gotta check it out. It's so good. I love that they went back to like their early Nirvana days and
Yeah.
kind of how they got started, and then Dave transforming into Foo Fighters and bringing each member of the band in. So good. Then this album's amazing.
There's so much to like about, you touched on it there, the fact that they really went back to their roots. Like they recorded it in Dave's garage, and then the way that they released it, they were doing those small little garage shows at people's houses to promote its release. Like it is a really there's just so much to like about it.
For sure. Well, even at the end of the documentary, they just did like some little show and played the whole new record front to back. Amazing.
Have you got the bit of the master tape there? Can we see it?
Not with me, no. When I dig it up, I'll have to post it on the Instagram.
Yeah, cool.
For sure. I mean, to me, it's just I love stories like that where you have bands, especially prolific artists, going into their garage recording stuff. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know, especially going back to their roots. Like, there's like how many of the best records of all times were a bunch of teenagers recording stuff in their garage, right? And for the Foo Fighters to kind of take that and like almost do an homage to it, and to go back to all the analog style and put out a record that way, I think is so cool. Especially after they released their greatest hits album,
Yeah, no kidding.
right?
The thing, first of all, let's just shout out to Dave Grohl for being
For sure.
The greatest.
someone that everyone seems to idolize.
Mount Rushmore of greatest rock and roll guys.
One of-
100%.
One of the most prolific songwriters of the last 30 years, easily. And the thing that's so cool about him, and this is another example of it, is he sees something that he likes or wants to do or that inspires him, and he just does it. Like the creative output of this guy with the Foos, you know, from leaving Nirvana or finishing, and then him releasing the first Foo Fighters, recording it entirely on his own, to then building this mammoth discography and just this heritage with the Foo Fighters, touring the world, becoming one of the biggest stadium rock bands of all time, and then saying, hey, I want to try my hand at making a documentary, or hey, I want to document and record the history of this recording studio in Sound City, or I want to go and do a metal album all on my own with some of my biggest influences from when I was growing up. Or, you know, just recently he's written a book. I decided I'm going to write a book. Like, the output of this guy is phenomenal.
What's so funny is he does so many things, and when he takes a stab at doing something new, he knocks it out of the park. It's not even like, oh, you know, my first attempt, it was okay. No, it's a home run.
Yeah.
Well, he's at that level of a celebrity where he's a trendsetter, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he has the ability to basically do anything, and people are going to follow suit.
But it's incredible that he's a self-taught musician. He's said that, but he appears to be self-taught in everything and just brains it every time.
Yeah.
I want to make a documentary. I want to write a book. He started Instagram and just started killing it on Instagram. He'd never had an Instagram account before. Like, the guy is just a legend.
He's just cool.
Yeah.
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 You don't even have to, like, again, I was saying this earlier, I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan, but I love Dave Grohl. It's because he just does rock and roll
Yeah.
so well. He's not he was someone who's at the top of the world, but always doesn't feel like he's on the top of the world. He puts his ego aside
Yeah,
and
he's
tries
not
something
pretentious.
new. Yeah, and not that I've ever met him, but it kind of feels that way. And I think you can't make that up. You can't make that genuine, like, personality up. And I think he embodies that idea so well.
Well, he had that back and forth like maybe 1 or 2 years ago with this young girl drummer.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of going back and forth over YouTube, right? And like totally embraced her, and they went back and forth so many times that I think they ended up meeting and like had a small collaboration, like just those little acts of kindness, right? That you wouldn't really expect such a high profile rock and roll artist to go.
He's
out of
never
his way
too
to
big.
do. Yeah, it's amazing.
So a unique sort of Grohl story on the similar veins in terms of his accessibility and kindness and just genuinely seeming like an all-round good guy. So a long time ago in Australia, there were these two miners that were trapped in a mine, and they were in there for, you know, they were stuck in there for a while. They were going to get them out, but it was going to take some time. And the guys, you know, they could get them food and water and all that sort of stuff. And they asked them, this is back in the days of iPods, and they asked them, you know, what music do you want? We'll put some music on an iPod and send it through to help you pass the time. And they're both Foo Fighters fans, so they got these iPods with Foo Fighters on it. And somehow, you know, after they got out, Dave Grohl heard about this, and he was just so stoked that his music was what they wanted to get them through this difficult time. He flew them out to the States to a Foos gig, like they had backstage passes. Like,
Amazing.
what?
Yeah.
You just, what a guy. This is before
Yep.
like that was the done. You know, that's kind of an obvious thing to do these days with social media because you get the kudos and it's a bit of a marketing stunt. It just seems like naturally that's his inclination.
Yeah. Can we circle back because, like, the producer of this album is
Butch Vig.
is massive. Yeah.
Oh, he's huge. One of the best.
Like when you dive into his, so these two teaming up, it's not just like two people teaming up. It's these two superstars teaming up. There's nothing except positivity coming out of this. It's insane.
Who are we talking about?
Butch.
Butch Vig.
Butch Vig?
Yeah. Like
Who
if you
else
go
has-
through.
Who else has he done?
Oh, where do you want to start?
Never mind.
Let's go.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Nevermind?
never
Smashing
mind.
Pumpkins?
Okay.
Yeah,
Jesus.
he established that grunge sound pretty much.
Yo, House of Pain.
Okay.
Let's go through some more here that I know.
Garbage, his own
Garbage.
band.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Green
Garbage.
Day.
He's the drummer in Garbage.
Yeah. Muse. There you go, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
wow. Really?
Yeah.
He's done a lot. He's done a lot of big names.
Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
Smashing Pumpkins. Holy crap! When you start diving into this stuff.
Yeah, Sonic Youth's another big one.
Oh yeah. It's like how are you not gonna create something like special?
And Dave brought
Wow.
back a bunch of the guys from Nirvana as well, like Pat Smear and Chris Novoselic worked on this record as well. So, but yeah, Butch Vig, massive influence on that grunge sound. Just back on the Beaconsfield Miners. As part of that, them getting the music, he sent a fax to be read to them. It said, though I'm halfway around the world right now, my heart is with you both, and I want you to know that when you come home, there's 2 tickets to any Foos show anywhere and 2 cold beers waiting for you.
Oh, my God. That's
Wow.
Yeah, what a stud.
And then
Can you imagine reading that?
Only 2 beers, Dave?
Yeah, come on, Dave. At least like a 6-pack. But so they ended up meeting him at a gig at the Sydney Opera House, and they went out for a beer with him afterwards. And he's actually since on Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace. There's actually a song called "The Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners."
Very cool.
That's awesome.
So Dave Grohl, what a guy.
Matt, this is it's such a great pick because like I'm like Chris, right? Like I only really listen to Foo Fighters in passing. I'm not the biggest fan, but I honestly feel like every time I hear one of their songs, I'm engaged and I love them. But I think what makes this such a special album is that like I said, like they released this after a greatest hits album.
Yeah.
And they still managed to win Best Rock Album of the Year,
Yeah, no kidding.
Best Rock Performance, Best Hard Rock Song. Like
White Limo.
To put out something like that, even after you've already put out a greatest hits record, it just seems crazy, and it just continues to build on the lore of Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's a
What
great pick,
album
man.
number is it?
It's only like their 7th album, so
I think it's 7.
So they had a greatest
That's
hits after
insane.
their first 6 albums.
Yeah.
That's a lot though. But you know what? On a sidebar, I had this conversation with my cousin. Again, shout out to Matt, the guitar maker. I had this conversation with him, but basically the conversation was, how many albums do you need to release to be an iconic band?
I think you can release one.
I think we should
one
save
to
that
be
for
like, to say that you're like a great band. Just one record.
if it
will do
shelve that. That's a hot take. I think we
That
need
is
to
a hot take.
or a bonus episode.
Okay.
There's a whole episode in there.
Yeah.
Pop it
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
hot takes.
yeah. Shelve that.
Because that's debatable for sure.
All right,
And
put
you
the
know
cue
what?
back
We'll
on the
bring
rack.
Matt on.
I want everyone
We'll
to go
bring
and do
Matt
some
on for that
homework. Go and read up on some examples. Build your case, and then we will reconvene on that.
Yeah, and Matt has to come in and make his point.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, Matt,
it's on the
before we explore the next gift of music, this is hard because I tried to think what your answer would be when I listened to this earlier in the week.
Okay.
What would you say is the most popular track off that album, and what's your favorite?
I want to hear what your guesses were first.
Well, I think. Hang on. I need to get their actual names so I don't get them wrong because that would be embarrassing. I think the most popular track off this album is probably Rope.
Oh, I find that interesting.
Hang on. My doorbell's ringing. Sorry, guys. Pause.
I'm all wet. Can I come in?
Okay, so, well, how would I know what your most favourite is? But I think, well, how about I just flip it? The one I think is the most popular, and the one I think, well, the one that is my favourite is Rope.
Okay.
That's your favorite, though.
That's my
I don't think
favourite,
that's
but
the
I
mo-
also think
that's
it
not
might
the
be...
most popular.
No?
No,
Well, what do you think's the most popular?
I think it's Walk.
Was that... What?
I think
So I would say it's this is just me. I would say it's between Roper these days.
I'd say it's
Wow.
Rope, but the Dead Mouse remix.
Neither.
Fair enough.
This is interesting. Neither are on the top 5 streamed Foos songs. Nothing from Wasting Light is on the top 5 Foos streamed songs on Spotify.
Really?
I can see
I'm
that.
assuming it's all stuff from the early years.
From their greatest hits album that they released before Wasting Light.
Yeah.
Is it all pre?
No.
What is Tom? Read them out. I'm curious.
Everlong.
What are they? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time.
The Pretender. That's more
Yep.
recent.
Yeah.
Best of You.
Learn to
Oh,
Fly.
yeah.
Learn to Fly.
All my life, I'm guessing, is one.
And All My Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best of You is a solid album too.
Oh, man.
Holy
That's
it
the
is.
one we were talking about. In Your Honor, sorry.
Sorry, In Your Honor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's with Best of You. That's the double album with the acoustic.
Yeah.
Solid. Solid stuff.
So-
Holy
So-
crap.
Matt, we just hijacked your conclusion. So, most popular and your favourite again, sorry?
So I'm thinking most popular on this record is between Roper these days. My personal favorite on this album is White Limo.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I'm just going to interject. Walk is their 7th most listened to song on Spotify and the most popular
Okay.
All right, I've been proven
on
wrong.
Spotify.
What were the singles from the album?
On Spotify.
They were Rope. I think White Limo was
White
used more for
Limo.
promo because they actually shot a music video. But I think the three main singles were Rope, Walk, and These Days.
White Limo was a single. Arlandria was a single.
These
and
days,
Yeah.
which,
Burning was a single.
yeah. 6
See, I didn't know
singles.
those last two were actually released as singles.
How do you release 6 singles?
And
It's the Foo
here's the
Fighters.
crazy thing: you have 2 releases in March: Rope and White Limo,
Yeah.
Walk in June, Arlandria in September, These Days in November, and then Bridge Burning in June
The
2012.
following year.
The following, like more than a year later.
Kind of makes sense though, right? Because they do those massive worldwide tours that take
Yeah.
like a year. So you need to
Yeah.
keep momentum. You need to keep ticket sales ticking over, keep people interested,
Yeah.
keep it relevant. So
Have any of you guys seen them live?
Yo.
no,
I haven't. No. No.
So I've seen them live a few times now. The most fun one though was when he did the Throne of Guitars and took that on tour. I was at that show in Toronto. That was so fun.
Was that when he had a broken foot?
Yeah.
oh,
No,
yeah.
that's so
Guy
cool.
doesn't let anything slow him down.
crazy.
No,
eh?
That's awesome.
Oh, I'd like to point out Bridge Burning because I got
I
curious
love
about
that song too. That's my number 2 off this record.
Yo, it went number 1 in Canada.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like, yeah, everywhere else in the world, or Billboard, number 1 rock, Canada rock Billboard. Everywhere else, like 6, 14, 75. But like, that's
Again, I
interesting.
didn't even know they released it as a single.
Yeah.
And I'd also just like to remind all the headbangers out there that he released an album called Probot with all of his heavy metal heroes. So get amongst it because it's fantastic.
It's so good. I remember hearing it.
It's one of my
so
favorite
good.
Dave Grohl albums.
Yeah, it's really,
I gotta
really
check
good.
that out.
All right, Chris, can I first of all compliment you on your shirt? It's
thank you.
fantastic.
Big
I'm wearing
tie-dye energy.
Digging
I'm
the
wearing-
fact that tie-dye is back.
Yeah, in a big way.
Has it ever been out of style?
Wow.
Because I've been wearing it for years.
Maybe not.
I do ugly shirt Fridays, so I always make sure I wear my most unmatching clothing. So today I was wearing tie-dye and a Sheffield United soccer jumper made out of an old scarf. It's absolutely hideous.
You are so eclectic.
I got 7 compliments on it today.
7.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm dressed nicely all the time. No one says anything. As soon as you put on an ugly shirt, compliments fly everywhere.
There you go. What do you got for us, Chris?
All right. I've got the new Basement Tapes, Lost on the River. It was given to me in 2014 by Patsy McLean. And it is definitely one of those albums that is better on vinyl than anything else.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like that it was meant for vinyl. I mean, you got the band and Bob Dylan. That's like one of the most iconic albums of all time.
Wait, what?
Wait, Dan. Which Basement Tapes are you talking about?
The Basement Tapes.
Yeah, this is the new Basement Tapes.
Okay, whoa. What is the new Basement Tapes? Because that is not what I listened to. I listened to
Dan, you didn't read
the
the
Basement
assignment.
Tapes. Like,
So hang on, let's just clarify this. So Dan,
Okay.
your homework this week, getting ready for the pod, listening to everyone's choices. You've listened to Bob Dylan and the band's The Basement Tapes.
the Basement Tapes.
Great album.
Oh, okay.
Not
right.
not the
Amazing album,
Not,
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the
And apparently it's
No.
not what Chris is presenting.
not the
so
album Chris is talking about.
we'll
If
try to
we're-
figure
if
out
we're-
what to say during this, but
If we're gonna be honest, then I didn't listen to Matt's either because I listened to the wrong album for that one too. So I guess we're just being honest in the skit.
So,
But
so Chris, tell us
this is
about the new Basement Tapes.
the new Basement Tapes. So this one here was put out in 2014 with Marcus Mumford. It had Elvis Costello.
what?
Yeah.
Amazing.
What?
Jim James, I want to say, and a couple others I don't know a lot about. Rhiannon and Taylor Goldsmith, but it's the same idea as the original Basement Tapes, from my understanding, where they found these unused Bob Dylan songs.
Just lyrics.
Just lyrics. You're right. Just lyrics, and they actually wrote the music to it and used the lyrics, but they had their own twist. So it doesn't sound like Bob Dylan. You can kind of, when you know it's the Basement Tapes, you kind of get these Bob Dylan ideas in your head, but they went in like completely different directions. Every song, it flows really nicely together, but every song's very unique in a certain way. There's some banjo in there. There's some songs that are very like vocal powerful. And then there's some other songs where it's more guitar based or heavier stuff. I know one of the songs, if I'm not mistaken, it's Kansas City. Jack White, Elvis Costello couldn't make it to the studio. So Jack White, no, that's a lie. Johnny Depp. Johnny
Amazing.
Oh
Depp.
my God! What is
J
this?
Dab.
Like you have?
Okay.
Wait.
So
we're talking about Jim James
T-Bone
from My
Burnett.
Morning Jacket,
Yes.
Elvis
Like,
Costello, and
Yes.
Marcus Mumford from Mumford
Yeah.
and Sons,
Yeah, and Rihanna
making music from Dylan's lyrics.
Written.
Yes,
So the
from like
lyrics
the
were
19
written 60s. Yeah, they were written around the same
Yeah.
time as the Basement Tapes were recorded.
Oh my God!
Yeah, they were found in the basement. It's the same story where they're found in the basement. Rumor has it, I don't know if it's been confirmed or denied. They were written around. He had a motorcycle accident in like 1966. So this is all from kind of that era. Now, like you hear that come through. So some of the songs are a little, I don't want to say cheesy, but Dylan-esque. And when it doesn't come from Dylan, it doesn't feel the same.
I know what you're saying.
So when you listen to it digitally, I struggled with it. So this week, because I had it on Spotify in the car or whatever, I was like, this album isn't what I remember it. But the second you put it on vinyl, and I put it on twice this week already, I was like, oh, I can't explain it. I don't know why, but this is one of my most played albums. Like if you look at this album, it's really, really used. And I just figured out like how beautiful it is on vinyl. It's one of those rare situations where digitally, I could take it or leave it. The second you put it on vinyl and you're doing something, it's just a powerful piece, and I definitely recommend if you don't have it, and you got to pick it up.
I wonder how affordable it is these days. But yeah, it's to add a bit more to the backstory of it. So T-Bone Burnett came across these lyrics, or they were sort of passed on to him to say, hey, do you want to do something with these? They're from Dylan from late 60s, maybe 67, something like that. And then he made sure that Dylan was okay with it, and Dylan was on board, so he went out and found what he thought were the right musicians to deliver this album, and then he sent all of them, each individually, all of the lyrics, and they all came back with their own versions of songs for this. And I think
Really cool.
I think about 40 tracks they came back with, and then as a group they decided on 20 to put on this album. Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool idea.
That's awesome.
It's definitely like it's a unique piece. And you can hear that. It's not polished in a way that you kind of expect from some of these artists. And that's what brings kind of light to the vinyl, where if you listen on Spotify, it's more the deluxe version and it sounds a little more polished. And it was only recorded over 2 weeks. I was reading earlier this week, and and I think that's kind of important. You hear like not the urgency in the songs, but you can tell right away, yes, this is a super group, but it's a super group that came together for a very distinct purpose and nothing more. And you kind of don't want any more from it. Like, I don't expect them to ever make another album like this, but I also don't want them to. Like, it's just enough where I can listen to this album 100, 200, 300 times, and I'm going to find something new. Even today when I was listening to it, I was like, I couldn't decide on a song I liked or more than another one, because I kept switching. I was like, oh, I like this. Oh, I like that. And you're picking up like these different versions within the songs themselves. And I think it makes it quite a unique album for that.
And we should actually clarify, the band is called the New Basement Tapes. That's the band. The supergroup is called the New Basement Tapes. The album is called Lost on the River.
Is it? Okay. See, I had no idea. I just assumed that makes a lot of sense. I just assumed it was the New Basement Tapes. Lost on the River was just a one-time thing. But there we go. All right.
How did T-Bone? Why did T-Bone get these lyrics? I mean, like, why wouldn't Dylan have them? I mean, I guess was T-Bone just like picking up the scraps from the '60s, working as Dylan's guitarist, and like keeping an archive of the stuff that Dylan wasn't using or something? How did he come across
it? It says they were previously uncovered, so I guess kind of like the Basement Tapes were sort of lost. I guess these lyrics had just never been recorded or put into song. You know, maybe it was just like a scrapbook that Dylan had, and then I don't know exactly how T-Bone Burnett got onto them.
No, he produced it though. But some of them, I'm not going to lie, some of it you can hear is very rough. Like, it's not grade A writing, but I think that adds to the allure of the songs. On the songs that the writing's not amazing, the musicians come in. You hear that Jim James influence, or you hear that Marcus Mumford influence in it, or Elvis Costello comes in. And Rhiannon has like this, she's so good on the banjo. She has like this way of bringing like this twang,
a different
school.
Rhiannon.
Yes, not Rihanna. Rhiannon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she comes in with this like banjo twang, but it's modern, but also like old school at the same time. And she has a gorgeous voice. Like a couple of her songs, she knocks out of the park.
Dylan plays a lot of banjo on the Basement Tapes.
So it was it was actually, it wasn't a notebook, it was a box of lyrics.
Oh, okay. There we go.
So Dylan's publisher gave Burnett a box of handwritten lyrics that had been found, that were dating from the 60s.
I'm assuming like the gatefold on the album is actually really cool.
Wow.
It's just
Are those
like
the
Oh, I
lyrics?
love that.
yeah, it's this screenshot of all of them in the recording studio, and then a bunch of the handwritten stuff. So we'll post it to the Instagram
cool.
account.
That's really cool.
It's and the cover album, the cover out's just a bunch of these like Peaky Blinders looking guys.
So that photo is
suits.
from the 1920s, apparently.
I thought it was earlier. I thought it was
maybe.
1888.
Oh, the 1800s?
Yeah, I thought it was in New York. I seem to remember looking that up when I first got this because, again, I got this album as a gift from my mother-in-law, and I never heard of it. And she was
drew
so
her
excited.
to it?
I have no idea, but I think it was her first Amazon purchase. And she got it off Amazon, and I opened it, and I was like, I was just ecstatic because I was like, it's 2014. It's the height of like that kind of Mumford and Sons. The hype was over, and it was kind of this new age to music. But these guys brought back some of that twanginess that Mumford and Sons left behind. And
That's cool, man.
I said this before to you guys. This album, I think if it came out 2 or 3 years earlier, would have been massive.
Right. At the height of Mumford and Sons.
It would have been massive. But I think it was just a little too post, so some of us held on to it. It actually might have been too early as well because there's some like sea shanty style songs on here that seem to be popular nowadays.
Yeah.
So it was either like a little bit late, but also a little bit early.
It's pretty good that you got a copy of it when you did. I just had a look, and I can't get a copy for less than $150 in Australia.
Jesus.
My God.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Again, I was saying mine's very well played. It's not Chewed by the Bunny, this one. But
So
But
not,
I
as
was looking-
not as valuable.
not as valuable, but it's definitely, you can see there's no scratches or anything, but wear and tear on the center is definitely, it's been well played.
Oh.
And when I put it on, I was like, why isn't this in my rotation again? Because it's, spectacular.
Cops actually have a copy for sale for $35. There you go. Dan, you're
Nice.
welcome.
There you go, Dan.
Do you want me to get it for you, Tom? Shout out to Cops Records again.
Oh, yeah. I'm going there tomorrow. That's my goal.
My last point to this, because I'm gonna have to listen to this after the recording.
Because you didn't read
and
the assignment.
I didn't read the assignment. Whatever.
Me and you, buddy. Me and you.
What's who's Marcus Mumford? I don't know. Imagine being such a great songwriter that you can just toss songs into a box and forget about them.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And then 40 years later, some of the most popular musicians of that time come together and make music on your behalf with those lyrics.
Yeah.
Like
Insane.
That's a great
Now,
point.
I'm going to say...
Bob Zimmerman, come on, man.
I'm going to say some of them maybe should have stayed in the box, but...
Okay.
Yeah, right. Chris just giving
but-
songwriting advice to Bob Dylan.
I am not, but I get why they were tossed in the box, though. There's some, it's interesting. Okay, but I'm gonna go with my favorites off this, from today's listen. I'm gonna base it off how I was feeling today, and there's a song called Spanish Mary, which is a really good vocal song, eerily chilling. So I'm going to go with Spanish Mary and Liberty Street. So they're actually back to back. And both those songs I always jump around on this album. I could probably name like 10 of the songs on here that I really, really like. But those two, especially today, jumped out at me. So if you want to check the album out, I suggest starting with those two.
Wow. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, great pick.
Yeah.
Wish I would have listened to it, but now I got something to listen to after the show.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
You can give us our insight next week.
the basement tapes
or
are
next
good
month.
too.
The new basement tapes. New.
The old
The
basement
band
tapes are good
is
too.
the new basement tapes.
The band is the new basement tapes.
What is it? Lost by the River?
Lost on the
Lost
Road.
on the River,
Lost on the River? Okay.
which is another great song.
But the band did the basement tape. Just to confuse
Yes.
things.
I am aware of that because that's what I listened to. An album that I actually really like. Long album, but
Yeah.
should we talk about the basement tapes?
It's
I got a lot. I got
too
a
LP.
lot for that.
Moving on.
Tom, it's your turn.
Well, thanks for that great introduction, Dan. So we're talking about gifts. I actually, as I said, one of the great things about being a record collector is it's like an easy option for people to give you a gift. And I have received quite a number of records as gifts over the years. But one of the most sentimental I'm going to talk about is this French pressing of the Beatles single All You Need Is Love with the B-side Baby You're a Rich Man. And Chris, I know you in particular just absolutely love this album art or sleeve art.
That's great.
It may be up there for like some of my favorite art of like album art. It's so simple and so like for the listeners, it's just like their hair and their mustaches on a white background with the Beatles and just pink. Is it pink or red on the camera? You can't really tell.
It's pink.
It's pink and black and white, and it's just like it screams the Beatles. It screams that like era of like art. And I'm definitely gonna rip that off for one of our episode covers.
And then it's one of the old school singles with the bigger
I love it.
hole. So you've got to get a bigger. I'm not even sure what the technical term for that is, but you know what I mean. So it's an Odeon pressing. It's really nice. So the backstory with this is, 2 years ago, one of my good friends from growing up from high school, John, got married to his wife Lizzie, and they're both record collectors and they love all things vintage. And so I knew as a wedding present, I wanted to get them some sort of record that would be sentimental. And that was reinforced when I got their wedding invitation, which, as you can see here, is like a pretend record in a sleeve. So this was the invitation.
So cool.
Yo, Tom, you have to describe that so people understand.
So this is Lizzie, John's wife, is really crafty. She made this. So the outer sleeve, which has these nice birds on it, on the back has the RSVP details, and then it's got a cutout for the record label, and that has the details of the wedding and saying you're invited, and then you can actually pull it out. So the invitation is a record.
That's
It's
super
so cool.
That's
Which
really
I've kept, which now lives with this Beatles single. So the story is,
love it.
I needed to get them a wedding present, and I called the Brisbane Record Exchange, which is this record store in downtown Brisbane, sort of main drag of Brisbane, owned by this old English guy, and he claims to have 250,000 records in stock. It's this. I've sent you guys photos of this place before when he's let me go into the stock room and just dig through these shelves of unsorted records. It's amazing, this place. And I thought, if anyone's going to have what I need, it's this guy. So I called him up. I said, I want a UK first pressing of I Want to Hold Your Hand. Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand. They're Beatles fans, they're record collectors, they're getting married, it's a romantic song. And anyway, I called him and he said, yeah, I've got a copy of that. Like, straight away. So I need this specific thing. Yeah, I've got a copy of that.
Wow.
So I hopped in the car, grabbed it, and gave them that as their wedding present, and they were obviously stoked as Beatles fans and record collectors, and anyway, thought nothing of it, and then Alicia and I got married last year, and sure enough, maybe like 2 weeks after we got married, this package turns up in the mail, and it's all like a box, and then like styrofoam or whatever, like really delicately wrapped, and it was from John and Lizzie, and it was this Beatles single, All You Need Is Love. So, two friends who grew up together, and we got each other wedding presents that were Beatles singles about love. So,
I
very,
love it.
very romantic.
That's cool.
Awesome.
It's very cute.
Great gifts.
So yeah,
Great gifts.
there's not much more to say about that, really. I kind of covered it all.
Yeah.
Hey, short and sweet, man.
Yeah. But how about those songs though? What
Great
a
song.
great, what a
Yeah.
great single.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I don't listen to a lot of singles because I kind of find them painful to be getting up and down and changing them. But I do have,
You're so
I've probably
spoiled.
got 20 singles in my collection. This is by far the most treasured for the sentimental reasons. But yeah, what I find so awesome about giving people like physical music as a gift is you're sort of sharing your passion with someone else. You know, you're trying to pass on to them. You know, you were excited about it for some reason, and so you've decided to give it to someone else. To see, you know, and hopefully they're as excited as you are. I think that's really cool. That's what I, you know, in terms of giving people, you know, like when friends of mine have started collecting, I've sort of picked some stuff out of my collection to give to them as a gift to kind of be like, hey, you know, welcome to this journey. You'll never have money to spend on drugs anymore because now you're collecting records. You're welcome.
Love it.
I've also some notable, given that was brief. Alicia's parents got me a copy of Back in Black at some point, which was very well received. And then I once exchanged, I gave a friend a ticket to one of Chris's favourite bands. I had a spare ticket to Radiohead in Sydney. And I know Chris loves Radiohead so much. And then in return,
Biggest fan on earth.
like the next week at work, they showed up. It was a colleague of mine. They showed up with OK Computer as a gift on vinyl.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Great.
wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's going to be a tough one to find.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's me. Short and sweet.
Amazing. What's your two favorite songs off that one, eh? Yeah, tough.
Yeah, look, it's tough. I'm going to go with All You Need Is Love as my first choice.
Okay.
And,
Bold.
Look, I'll go
choice.
Baby You're a Rich Man.
Nice.
Even bolder. Love
Actually,
it.
Tom, I want you to wrap up your segment by trying to figure out whose silhouettes are whose.
Oh,
yeah.
oh man. Okay, so let's go with the easy ones first. That's Paul.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Agreed? Everyone agreed, Dan?
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Paul.
Today, Junior.
George?
No.
George.
Yes.
Okay. Then
I wouldn't have got that right.
that's George.
That's
Or is that John?
John.
I'm going to start again. Paul is the most
Yeah.
obvious.
Actually, I don't even think that's Paul. I think that's probably Ringo.
You think that's Ringo?
Yeah.
No.
It's kind of looking like Paul's the second one.
Yeah. I
Is it?
agree.
So maybe
okay,
that's
wait.
Paul.
Second one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Really?
thinking that's Paul.
I thought it was Ringo.
Okay. So
That's
one of
Ringo,
these is
yeah.
Paul and one of these is Ringo. That's George and that's John.
Okay.
there you go.
All right. There we go.
We got there in the end.
We'll post a photo on our Instagram. Everyone can have a chance
Yeah.
to guess.
And then, Dan, I would like you to wrap up the segment by telling us which of us is which.
Oh, okay. I'm Paul for sure.
All right. Okay.
No, okay. You know
Which-
what?
You get to
Which
be
Beatle was
you get to
bald?
be the coolest
Which
one who's
Beatle's
still
bald?
alive.
Which Beatle is bald? This is hard, actually. I mean, okay. I feel like the band leader is Tom, which would make him Paul.
Ooh.
Oh, really? Paul's the band leader?
Yeah. For sure, Paul.
Right?
Yeah.
For sure, he's the band
Yeah.
leader. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Paul.
The controversial one was John, which would make that
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right?
Agreed.
I feel like the more reserved one and musically talented was George, which would make that Matt. And then that
Okay.
would make me Ringo.
But what
Okay.
makes you Ringo?
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't feel like.
You know, he's keeping the band together. Best drummer of all time.
Looks great in a space suit.
The most handsomest and will end up living the longest.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All
There
right.
you go.
Okay. All right.
I can live with that. I can live with all of
All
those.
right. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I can live with that.
There you
too.
go.
I mean, this is bullshit.
Good pick, right? Chris has the hair too. Chris looks like John Lennon
Yeah.
right now.
That's
Oh,
true.
with the glasses?
So
Yeah.
So is
I was gonna say, Lauren said after meeting you, you totally had a John Lennon vibe going on.
There you go.
so is Lee gonna break up the pod?
Oh. Yeah, Lee has a better singing voice than Yoko.
Shout out to Lee. You're amazing.
Yeah.
But
She hasn't listened to a single episode, so it doesn't matter.
That was fun.
I'm pretty sure she had to cut the last episode short because Chris was making too much noise for Veda.
Yeah, I did. I got yelled at.
So Chris,
There we
now,
go.
now you have the album art for an episode in the future, and you can do silhouettes.
Yeah, we're gonna do silhouettes. Don't worry, we'll do it.
Beautiful.
All right, I'm excited for this last one. Dan, both the story and the choice, hit us. What have you got? What is your vinyl gift of choice?
Okay. I'm going with a pick here that I've talked about these guys in a previous bonus episode, live music episode.
Yeah.
This happens to be one of my favorite albums of all time.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
You know, for two reasons. One, because I find the music on it to be phenomenal, and there's also a lot of sentimentality behind it because it was a gift, right? So I'm going with Fleet Fox's Helpless as Blues. This is their sophomore album. You know, this actually, I think this is their last album with Father John Misty on it. After this album, it was really mostly Robin Pecknold that produced and wrote most of the stuff. And Father John Misty went on his own way. Father John Misty played drums in the band and was a big part of the harmonies. But, you know, basically when Alina and I were first together, we'd been together for about a year. And when this album came out, it was, you know, I was already a big Fleet Foxes fan, and so I was really excited to hear that they were releasing a new album. And they had talked about, actually, you'd hear inklings of them going to release new albums for a couple years, but because they were touring, they kept postponing the release of it. So when it finally came out, it had a lot of build up, and you know, a lot of people were waiting for that to happen. And so when it came out, I thought as soon as I put it on, it was like, to me, it hits from start to finish. And I had this on, like, I had this burned, I think I had this burned on a CD back when it came out, and
Nice.
it was living in my car. And basically, what the lifestyle I was living was, I would wait for my mom to come home, and as soon as she'd come home in the afternoon, I'd grab the car, I'd drive to Alina's dad's house where she was staying, and I'd spend all night there. I would wake up at like 6 a.m, drive back to my parents' house so my mom could have the car for work, and I'd do that basically every day. And the drive from my house, my parents' house, to Alina's dad's house was about the exact length of this record.
Oh, really?
Meant to
So
be.
I would listen to it front to back,
Nice.
both ways, and so I listened to it a ton. The concert that I talked about in the bonus episode was the concert for this tour.
Oh, wow.
So to me, it's just, you know, Alina bought this for me on vinyl for my birthday, because the album released just before my birthday date in June. So you know, so to have this on vinyl, and this is, you know, at the time it was one of our most played records in our collection, and it still gets a lot of play, and it's definitely one of my favorites.
I'd just like to say, I love that you anticipated this album, and when you listened to it, it was everything you expected, because usually that doesn't happen, and that makes this even more special for you. Is right, like you waited, and then finally it came, and you were like, yes, this is what I wanted. Because how many times do you do that and it just doesn't hit home, or you're like, ooh, is that what I actually wanted? So I think that makes this so special for you, and I love that idea that you waited and you got what you wanted.
I agree, man. Like there are a lot of some of my favorite albums. You know, it took a few listens to actually get warmed up to it. But this is one of those very select few where as soon as the first song came on, it was like they didn't really skip a beat from their first album. They still carried that same style, but
Which is so hard to do.
Which is really hard to do, and it's really hard to like maintain the same style, but to also have a different tone, right, and to have a different vibe. You know, this album was it's pretty clearly written about someone who likely broke Robin Pecknold's heart from start to finish. He's basically talking about love lost and experiences that he may have had with this person, and as the album progresses, you kind of see his realization to kind of let it go. And then the last song is like this, it's like this ecstatic release of I can finally move on, right? So I find the album tells a really good story, and the pacing is really good, and there's some epic tracks on that on the album.
Released the same year as Wasting Light too, which is a funny little
nice
coincidence.
Amazing.
Man, I wish I read the podcast notes like Dan did, because then I would have enjoyed this album. I'm gonna go back like Dan and listen to it later tonight.
It's actually a really
We'll do a bonus episode, you and me, Chris, where we talk about
just us.
how we re-listen to the stuff that we're supposed to listen to.
It's actually Dan, I know what you mean about the moment you put it on, you just sink into it. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna love this album, and I haven't listened to it on vinyl, but I can totally understand why this would be a great vinyl listening experience. It's a really warm record, and I just feel like it's the perfect style of music for sitting back and just listening to it start to finish on an album experience. I've listened to it a couple of times in the space between these two episodes because I knew it was coming up, and it's a really great choice. I think I'm gonna have to get it on vinyl at some point and add it to the collection.
Awesome.
Yeah, this I mean, I find Fleet Foxes to be such a special band. I find most of the stuff that they release is amazing. I mean, they're primarily folk rock.
Yeah.
But I think they do a really good job of blending a lot of different genres into their music. And I find that the songwriting to be really, really high end. And obviously there's the sentimentality of the band, right? And every time I listen to Helpless as Blues, it just brings me back to that time, right? Like
yeah.
I've been with Alina for 11 years now, and it always brings me back to that first year, which is just such a special moment of a relationship where everything is new and all the feelings are new, and you're just so excited to see that person, right? I'm still obviously excited to see her every day, but you know, it's just that first year was exciting. We had just left where we'd met in school, and we were just waiting to move to Toronto, right? And we're kind of just living a nonchalant lifestyle where we weren't really working, and we're just kind of waiting to move, right? And we had a lot of great times, and just every time I listen to it, it always brings me back to that, and especially the song "Helpless as Blues," where there's when you have that moment where you have the breakdown, and he talks about what does he talk about? Something about how the person is working at a restaurant, and he hopes to one day, you know, buy a piece of land and to own an orchard. It was like an idealistic idea that I had at that time, right? And so it, you know, it brings me back to that like young adult life and that young love. And so to me, it just that's why I love this album so much.
Awesome, man. That's really cool.
Love it.
It holds such a great memory for me.
That's cool. Man, music is such a time machine like that. You know, you hear a certain song and it takes you right back, and you can almost feel like you're in that moment again.
Oh man, and this is one of those that does that to me the most, for sure.
Before we get into your top picks, most popular and your favorite, that's a really interesting point around this being a moment in time and taking you back to that period in your relationship. Do you, Chris and Matt, do you guys have a band or an album that you and your partners both love and always go back to?
Oh yeah.
What's it for you, Chris?
Definitely Chemical City, Sam Roberts.
Had to be Sam Roberts.
It had to be. Well, it's like my wedding song.
Yeah.
We listen to it all the time. Lee was talking about the other day. She's like, we've been trying to do like monthly date nights, and the next one she picked is we're going to go get tattoos, and she's trying to convince me to go get Sam Roberts tattoos.
Wow.
Nice.
And I'm a
Stay tuned.
little
listeners.
hesitant. Last time I got a
Chris-
tattoo, it wasn't the best idea of my entire life.
Chris, it's time for you to get Sam Roberts tattooed on your butt.
Dude, yeah, on my butt. I was thinking, over my heart.
What about your whole back, the cover
It's just
of
his face?
Chemical City?
Oh yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
that'd be epic.
Man, only if Chris Price does it. And Dan gets his bass tattoo.
Okay.
Matt, what about you? Do you have something in mind that's a really sentimental album?
I do. I don't know if I can narrow it down to one album, but as an artist, probably Lady Gaga. Both me and my wife are big fans of Lady Gaga, and we like all of her records. I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be Joanne. That's one that we
such a
play one that we play quite often. And for her birthday, the one year I took her to go see Lady Gaga, which was a great show, and it was for that tour. So I would have to say it's probably that album.
Awesome.
Love it.
We, for Leash and I, one record that gets played all the time and was the first one we listened to when we came home from getting married is Neil Young's Harvest.
Nice.
Probably our most listened to record and the first thing we wanted to dance to after we got married.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, absolutely love that album. We listen to it so much. The other one that we saw together and we listened to a lot is Zac Brown Band. And I wasn't really a country music guy before I met Leash. She's, country music's obviously more popular or very popular in Canada. And she sort of got me more into it and opened my horizons a bit more. And we saw Zac Brown Band live together in Sydney a few years ago. And we actually, I recently got our wedding photos printed into a book. And, you can get those photo books done up. And I needed to fill a page at the back, or like a blank page. I didn't want to just leave it blank, so I did the lyrics to one of their songs, which is the song "Free." I don't know if you know it. It's off one of their albums that they sort of broke out with, and it's actually written about Byron Bay in Australia. So there's a nice little synergy there.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Very cool.
So,
All right, Dan, what's your songs?
yeah, Dan, let's hear these songs.
For me, actually, one of my favorite songs is the title track, and so it's one of the more popular and well-known songs. It's a really epic tune. Hopefully, people listening to it who've never heard of this band kind of jump into the band with that song, because I think you could be a fan just by listening to it. And then the other one is because I feel like the album does a great job to tell a story from start to finish. It's the epiphany the songwriter has in the song Grown Ocean, the very last song, that always gets me. Every time I listen to that song, it's such an optimistic tune. And it's just great for anyone going through anything to just kind of be able to the whole vibe of the song is to basically, climb a mountain, turn around and look at the ocean and realize that you're a speck of dust in the universe and that nothing else matters. And that you should just enjoy the beauty that you're looking at. So,
I like that.
and I think the song as well, the tone and the vibe of the song is just really beautiful. So
Dan,
two songs.
if I was to listen to this album for the first time, not shuffle, should I just dedicate whatever the hour and 20 minutes and just give it a full listen, front to back?
Front to back.
Yeah. Okay. It
Tells
feels like the
tells
way
a
you're
story.
explaining this. Yeah.
It tells a story. It's quite a long album at 50 minutes, so it is a very much a long play.
Yeah.
But from start to finish, you'll kind of get an understanding of what the relationship was, moments that they had, a moment that kind of split them up, and then there's kind of a bit of a lull of a chaotic period, and then there's a song that references an argument. So be sure you understand that the song is called an argument before you actually listen to it, because that's a very chaotic song. And then the song Blue Spotted Tail and Grown Ocean are the perfect end to the story and the experience that the songwriter had.
I love
to be able to get this epiphany of being able to move on. So
I love that because the album I chose was very much, you didn't have that transition. There didn't feel like, it didn't feel like that. It felt like a bunch of individual songs. No, well, not always, but
We love it.
but I love that continuation. And again, that's why it's the perfect album on vinyl. So very cool.
We love a concept album.
Very, very cool. Love it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
I
We
love concept
always talk
albums.
about this.
I'm
Yeah.
actually excited to listen to it again with new ears after your description of it, Dan.
Me too.
Nice.
Because again,
New perspective.
I've never been a Fleet Fox. In fact, I said this last time. I didn't even know Father John Misty was part of Fleet Foxes. Which
Yeah, you said
when
he's a
Dan
big
told me
part
that,
of it.
wait, when you told me that, and then I went, oh, that makes so much sense when you listen to both bands.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I never put it together. So I definitely have to go back, listen with fresh ears. And this is, again, why I love this podcast, because it gets you into new music. I was
sure,
telling
man.
Matt a couple months ago, probably in the summer, I was like, I stopped listening. Like I everyone gets to that point, but I like hit a wall where I was just like, I'm sick of music. I'm sick of the same thing. And Spotify feeds you like similar things.
Yeah.
But then talking to you guys and starting the podcast, I was like, oh, let's check out this band. Oh, let's go revisit Zeppelin. Do I actually like them? Right? Let's go visit bands I thought I knew songs of that I had no idea. Like the Beatles earlier this year when I was like, oh, or the Rolling Stones. Tom, Exile on Main Street is now like one of my most played albums on Spotify.
Oh, that's
easily.
awesome.
Right? So like I really appreciate like the idea of this and Dan's insights and all of that for
And
getting me
on-
back
on-
into music.
Honestly, Chris, just to reverberate that, like I just love the diversity of our tastes in music.
Yeah.
Nobody here has the same taste in music, but I think we all have the same sort of appreciation for music, right? And you guys have
absolutely.
obviously made amazing recommendations for me too, right? So
Definitely.
thank you for that gift.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
That's the
nice.
gift.
Bringing it
For that
home.
gift.
What a gift. So, before we get too lovey-dovey, I got some bad news, gents.
Oh, no.
no.
It
going on?
is that time.
Oh,
Bad news. We're
So-
talking about Glenn.
You know, we may have all just had a nice little love in there and touchy-feely, and we all love each other and gift this and gift that. But now comes the moment of the episode where we go to the agent of chaos, Glenn, the hot take wheel. He hits us with a topic, and we may not leave here in such a harmonious fashion.
I have to write a death metal riff to go with this.
I was going to say like something punky death metal.
Yeah, nice intro song.
Something that feels like impending doom.
Dude, don't make me write it
exactly.
because it'll be out of key and it'll be great. All right, so here's the
What's on the wheel?
Here's what's on the wheel. We got best song
Like, just
Of all
best
time.
song of all
We
time.
got-
No big deal.
best song of all time. We got
Big
Roger
topic.
Waters or David Gilmour. A popular band you can't get into. Colored vinyl and picture disc. Cool or gimmick. And then most iconic riff of all time. All right, I would like to say I fixed the wheel. I fixed the wheel today so it actually runs on battery power. Well,
Glenn has been healed.
Can you
Glenn has been healed. I don't just spin it. So here we go. Matt, hopefully you can hear the ticking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Give me a good one.
What
Give
is
me a
it?
good one. Give me a good
It's
one.
not 5. The first time I spun it today and it didn't land on 5. It landed on 4, which is colored vinyl and picture disc, cool, or a gimmick.
Oh,
Cool.
This
All
is-
right. I'm going to
Chris
start.
has all of the picture discs and colored discs in the world, so you got to go first.
Yes, he does.
I don't have a single picture disc, but colored vinyl, holy hell am I a sucker for colored vinyl. I love it. And my second choice today, which I almost picked, my dad got me a red Who vinyl, and it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I think I was probably in grade 11, and he bought it for me, and I was like, this is the coolest record I've ever seen in my entire life. And since that day, if I can get a picture disc, I will pay extra for it. Or sorry, color disc. I will pay extra for it. I love it. You can't tell me it's not cool.
Wow.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I'm right there with Chris.
I knew
I'm a
you would
sucker
be.
for it too. It's my favorite. I love it. Every time I see one, it makes me happy. I love picture discs too. They're fantastic. And I'm just like you, Chris. If I can find either or, I will pay a little bit extra.
100%.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe we're going to be split down the middle here. I think they're cool, but I think they're a gimmick. And I will go out of my way to not buy a colored vinyl. I will always choose black vinyl.
Yes, Tom.
And I think I only own 2, and that's not from choice. I tried to buy a copy of Rage Against the Machine's first album, and when I got there, it was a picture disc. It's really cool.
It is cool.
But I feel it's gimmicky. I just wanted their album. I didn't want the album cover on a disc. And I have the Dub Side of the Moon, which is the reggae version of Dark Side of the Moon. That's green vinyl for obvious reasons. Again, that's just the way it came. I didn't, if it was a black vinyl, I would have taken it. I understand why they do it, and maybe it became more prominent when record sales were going down and they needed a way to get people interested in it again. I get that, if it's a pre-sale, they might do colored or picture as a gimmick to get people to buy the pre-sale version and pay more for it. They don't appeal to me. I don't care that other people like them. I also read that actually back in the day, it's not the case now, but back in the day, black vinyl pressings were the highest quality and coloured pressings were a lower quality. So back when black vinyl was the most common, the audio quality of coloured vinyl was crap. So I'm going to pretend that that's also the reason I don't like them. But what I will say is that all vinyl records are coloured vinyl because PVC is naturally a whitish clear colour. So there's an additive to make them black.
Well, black is a shade.
Sorry. Okay. So they're all coloured or shaded.
Hey, I have a couple clear vinyl. So does that mean I'm the only one here or me and Matt are the only one here with true vinyl? Because I know me and him have some clear ones.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe you guys are the purists.
So you're the one who's wrong. Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I stand on the matter. I will never seek out a colour.
No, you have to pick a side. Pick a side. Take a hard line
black
here.
vinyl.
Come on.
I will never choose coloured vinyl.
Okay. Gimmick. All right. Okay, what's the green? Solid green, or is it the see-through
it's
green?
See-through.
Yo, so cool. I'm in. Love it.
I'll post a photo of it.
Yo, you better. It's amazing.
Okay, Dan, where do you stand on this issue?
Yeah,
I'm gonna split this up: colored vinyl and picture discs.
I agree. They're two separate things.
Cool or gimmick, right? So let's go with colored vinyl. It's a gimmick, right? It is definitely designed to get people to jump back into buying vinyl records. This is not something that was really done back in the day. And if it was done back in the day, it was a gimmick for people to collect.
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, my record collection is to listen to. It is a collection, and I do. Since I've been putting my records into Discogs, I very much appreciate the value of it as a collection. But I'm not going out of my way to look for colored vinyl.
Yeah.
Mind you, guys, we have our copies of Mouse Rat's album coming in. They're in transit. We should be getting them next week sometime. I did get a colored vinyl version of it. Why? Because
it's a gimmick.
It's more valuable. There's less of those being made, right?
Oh, really?
So that I understand. I'm not a big collector of new vinyl, but I understand that they make less copies of colored vinyls in certain things,
generally speaking,
which makes them more valuable.
Okay.
So that's why I went with colored. I don't necessarily think it's that like a cool thing. I think like a lot of stuff, if it makes you happy, then I'm really glad that you guys are collecting it. And that's, to me, that's all that matters about this hobby. Okay, so colored vinyl, I don't think it's cool. I think it's a gimmick, but I'm here for it. Now, picture discs. if you own a picture disc, do me a favor, take it out of its sleeve and break that shit. It is, to me, that is the dumbest gimmick in this entire hobby.
Big fan.
I do not want a picture of anything on my vinyl. It's spinning, so how am I even supposed to look at the picture? What a dumb gimmick. Like, just toss
There are
it in the
versions of
trash.
that that
I
are actually an
do not-
animation.
Yeah, have you seen the Star Wars one? It does a 3D hologram.
Yeah.
But that's cool then. That's cool. But
That is cool.
most picture discs are garbage.
I
don't like them because here's the thing. Like, to me, like, I love album art. I love the way, I love how artists take the time to really think about what their sleeve is going to look like, and then to just have something put on a vinyl and there's grooves in it. I just always find it looks tacky. I always find it looks trashy.
Yeah.
I personally don't like it. I think it's a real gimmick, and a gimmick that I'm not here for. So colored vinyl is a gimmick, but I'm okay with it. Picture disc is also a gimmick, and I'm not okay with it.
Can it be a gimmick and be cool?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Cool is a subjective term.
is
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
A colored vinyl is obviously a gimmick, but is it also cool?
I'm voting yes. Matt?
It's your
Yeah,
choice.
I'm voting yes too.
Are you
Tom,
agreeing that it's
gimmick?
a gimmick?
Yeah, it is. It's gimmicky, but it's also cool. I'll agree with that.
It's
It's cool.
gimmicky.
Yeah, it's cool.
So we got 2.5 gimmicks,
Yeah,
and we have 2 cools.
yeah. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's gimmicky. It's kind of cool, but I will never choose colored vinyl over black vinyl if I have a choice.
All right, picture discs. What do we think? So Dan's an absolute no. I've never actually bought a picture disc. My first picture disc I've ever owned, Carvalho gave me like a month ago.
Huh, what was that?
Yeah.
I think it was a Taylor Swift album that you gave me. You gave me a bunch of like going to Matt's house. He sent me home with a goodie
His
bag. of,
record
like,
store. Going to
10
Matt's
albums.
record store that he lives at.
Yeah.
This guy here, I don't know if he has like 4 turntables in his basement that are just sitting there ready to be used. And we're not talking like cheap turntables. We're talking like the best turntables of all time.
Well,
and it's like,
you
man,
need-
why don't
you
you have
need-
this hooked up?
You need 2 SL 1200s to be a producer.
That's one of
right?
them.
That's one of them that's just sitting there. And I was like, fuck, I was like complaining that I need a new turntable. I should have just went to Matt's house and stole one to borrow.
Yeah, okay, $1,000.
To be fair, I
turntables.
forgot it was even there.
Yeah, he forgot. He said he found them at the University of Waterloo when he did some work there. I was like,
Yeah.
lost my mind. But so that was the first time. Now, would I pay extra for a color or a picture disc? No, no. Would I pay a little extra for a colored? Yes. So I'm gonna go with picture disc. Super gimmicky.
Like, are they
I
meant
like
to be
the
put
idea
on
of
your
them.
wall?
Will I buy it? No.
Like, are you meant to frame it and put it on your wall?
Yeah, I think I love.
I think that would be the idea.
the idea of it. Would I go if I had black colored picture disc? If I had a choice of the 3, I'd go with, depending on the artist, I'd probably go with colored. The other 2, depending on what the album was, but I would never pick picture disc over just normal or.
Yeah,
or
see, I would
I just-
out
I
of
just,
those
like,
3, I
to
would always
me-
choose black.
really
To me, like it you know, I find an album, a square album in a plastic protective sleeve can present well on a wall, but it's that plastic thing that picture discs go in
Yeah.
that I just find looks bad.
Yep, I agree. I get what you're saying, Dan.
And
I agree.
and like I totally like if they're collectible and there's some value to it and you enjoy collecting it, then 100% I support that and I love that for you. But like, to me, I just like I don't find they actually look good, and I think they display terribly.
How many,
And-
on a scale of hundreds, how many picture discs do you have, Matt?
300.
I probably have, I would say, 20 to 30.
Man,
Less than I
any
thought.
good record stores.
But the majority,
Any good
to be
record store
fair, the
must.
majority, those are singles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one you
I
gave me
can
is
I
a
could
single.
probably count on two hands how many are albums. And that's the thing is, I kind of do agree with you guys. I guess picture discs are a little gimmicky. I do enjoy them, but if I had to pick, I'd probably go color or black over getting a picture disc. If it's the only way I can get something, like for example a single, then I'll go for it. But if I'm going for the album, I want like the standard album, no matter what color the disc is.
No, I think that's interesting because I think the single with the picture disc,
It's cool. I like it.
It can have a cool aspect because
Yeah.
then you don't get the album art with it. You do the album art on the
Yes.
actual album,
And
you do
that's
a
where I
clear
think
sleeve.
it works better.
Yeah, so I agree with that. Yeah, I like that idea. Would I buy it? I'm with Tom and I'm with Dan, where I don't really do a lot of singles because why would you in this age of Spotify?
I've really backed away from it.
At
Yeah,
the end of the
but
day,
Unless it's like a record store day release.
Yeah, which again, that's also gimmicky. Which
Yes.
you know, I'm a sucker for. Do you know what? Screw it. I'm a sucker for gimmicks. I love it. I love it.
If you're really into this hobby for the collecting aspect and
Then it makes
finding
sense.
value in things,
Then it makes
makes
sense,
total
yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
why not?
like it's your hobby, so do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Whatever makes you happy.
Yep.
No, this is too lovey-dovey in the end. You guys
Okay.
are both wrong. You guys are both wrong.
No, the
and
verdict
they're both
is-
cool. I'm switching my mind. I
The
like both of
verdict
them.
is split decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it.
2-2.
We'll do a poll.
The verdict,
we do a
as
poll?
with all of these, the verdict is it is subjective. But that's
Yeah.
not interesting, so let's call it a split decision.
Yeah, and we'll do
And
an
it's-
Instagram
and it's-
poll. Let's
yeah,
see
it's-
who you side with.
Yeah.
A split decision goes to the Instagram audience.
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go. So we're gonna get one vote. John Palumbo's gonna pick for us, and we'll go from there.
But I'm gonna need 2 separate story posts, one for colored, one for
Yeah.
picture.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
we should chuck Record Store Day as a hot take question at some point.
Yeah.
if it's not already.
I'd be interested to hear what the viewers think of Record Store Day as well.
Yes.
Matt did mention it in one of his blogs, but
You did.
That I
yeah.
did.
If you haven't checked out the blog, worth the read.
greatexpectationspod.com. It's where Matt basically writes about the 400 records he's bought in between each episode.
Yeah. Jesus. I can't describe his house. Like if I took pictures, I took a video to show you, but it
Just
doesn't.
picture a record store with furniture in it.
Yeah. And then
Matt's-
and no drywall because he works too much to finish his basement. That's
Matt's,
all he kept
Matt's
saying.
gimmick is he writes an article and he writes one word for every vinyl he bought that month.
Well, yeah.
So I think that's close to a wrap on the gift of music, but
I think so.
there's been a few milestones since we last chatted as well. And Matt, I want to get your thoughts on one of them. Big one, obviously, we had 50 years of Zeppelin 4 or Zeppelin Untitled or Zoso or the Four Symbols or whatever you want to call it. That was one of those anniversaries that was just kind of universally appreciated by music fans, which was really cool to see. Such a significant album. But Matt, we also came across, or didn't come across, but it's a 30-year anniversary of another massive album connected to a producer we spoke about earlier in this episode. And I think you got a copy of it this week.
Yes. Yeah, Nevermind by Nirvana.
Oh man, big record.
Massive album.
30 years, hey?
It's crazy that it's 30.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then to jump into that, it's been 19 years since Audioslave's self-titled album, which
That's
those
another
two
one.
albums,
It's hard to believe it's that old.
But it's also hard to believe that those two albums are like
How close together they were.
Yeah.
compared to nowadays, right? Like,
But also-
I picture Audioslave years after,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
right? But it's not that distant. It's the
So what, Audio
yeah.
Slave was what, like 2002? 2001?
Two, yeah. If I can do my math, right.
But also, how much did music change from 91 to 2001?
Oh, quite a
Right.
bit.
yeah, it's
Especially
crazy.
in the rock world.
Yeah, and then even now, how things have changed in the rock world. Even since that last Foo Fighters album, right? We're talking about how like Deadmau5 covered a Foo Fighters song in like 2011, right? Which is so interesting because now,
10
like,
years ago.
yeah,
So
it's 10 years ago, right?
Think about the changes in rock in 30 years since Nevermind, which was, you know, grunge. And then like we've had new wave since then with guys like the Killers being massive. Then we've had indie and folk, you know, that period of indie and folk with like your Arcade Fire and your Fleet Foxes and the National and Mumford and Sons.
Yep.
And then I don't know, what are we even in now? What phase are we in now?
It's hard to define the rock world right now to me.
But even go back, because you're talking about Zeppelin 4, like, it changed so much between that and Nevermind. And those albums are only 10 years apart, right?
Oh yeah.
Right? So that's
No.
That's
Zeppelin
no.
4
there's
and
20.
There's
20
there's 20 years
gap.
20-year gap?
50
Okay.
year
Even the
anniversary and
20
30 year anniversary.
Sorry, I thought it was 40. My bad. So, but even still, those huge changes. Actually, it's kind of relative in that sense as well, where we saw that kind of transition into the 80s. We're kind of doing, well, everything's in cycles, right? So it's
Well, I'm really hoping that we do the end of the year bonus ep where we talk about the albums that we dug and then also our favorite album that was released this year, because there's a big time 80s revival in rock and roll right now.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to talk about an album that came out this year.
Cool. I'm excited.
That touches on those sounds, but just brings them into the new age, which is great.
I have a feeling I know what you're talking about, but I'll wait to see.
I'm excited. My album, I got some doozies, which I never thought I'd pick, and I love it.
Yeah, I've got 4 albums that I'm like, man, I don't know which one to pick, but I'm pretty confident on which one I'm going to go with.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic, gents. Thank you for the gift of your time. Thank you for the gift of your musical choices. I would call that a wrap. That's Ep6. Episode 5 of the Crate Expectations pod. Thanks again for joining us. As we said, this has been the Crate Expectations. We are the Groovy Guys. If you want to get in touch with us, drop us a line on Instagram at Crate Expectations pod. Send us some fan mail like John Palumbo, crateexpectationspod@gmail.com. We're online at crateexpectations.com. Until next time, make sure whatever you're listening on, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can get a notification when the next episode is out. We've got a few more episodes coming up this year, then we're going to take a bit of a break, refresh heading into 2022. Until next time, keep digging and spinning.
The Groovy Guys are Tom Kennedy, Dan Lozier, Chris Palumbo, and Matt Carvalho. With your host, Tom Kennedy. Music by Dan Lozier, post-production by Matt, and album art by Chris.